Chapter 29. The Breakup, when paths diverge. The breakup, one word that carries the echo of two broken hearts. If you've ever been through it, you already know how much it can hurt. And if you haven't, it probably sounds like a nightmare to avoid at all costs. Whether the ending arrives in a burst of recriminations or over a calm conversation at a cafe, the result is the same: a love story comes to the end of the road. Why do people who once loved each other part ways? You've probably asked yourself that too. The reasons are many, and sometimes even the most intense love isn't enough to keep two people together. Sometimes love fades gradually, like a candle flame running out of oxygen. Other times, something snaps all at once: a sudden betrayal, a painful lie, news that changes everything, and the relationship collapses in an instant, like a sandcastle smashed by an unexpected wave. In either case, we're left with a tightness in the chest and a mind full of questions with no clear answers. Often, distance in a couple settles in without fanfare. It doesn't arrive like a storm you can see coming from far away, but rather like a fine fog that thickens a little more each day. At first, it's just small, unspoken dissatisfactions. A weekend when you felt ignored, a forgotten promise, a hug that didn't last as long as it used to. At first, you hardly notice, you tell yourself everyone has bad days. Then those moments start to add up. Conversations grow shorter, silences stretch longer. In the evening, instead of your usual playful debrief about your day, you find yourselves each staring at your phone in a heavy silence. Hugs and tender gestures become rare, until one day you're struck by the painful realization that the person beside you, once your soulmate, now feels like a stranger with whom you barely share anything in common. This is the breakup that arrives slowly, step by step, almost invisible until it becomes inevitable. Other times, the breakup comes like a bolt from the blue. One of you does or discovers something that changes everything in an instant. Maybe it's infidelity. You learn that the person you love betrayed your trust, and you feel your shared universe crumble in a second. Or one of you gets a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity thousands of miles away, and the other can't follow, and although you love each other, you both know the distance will wound you. In moments like these, the shock of the breakup is a blow to the chest. It knocks the breath out of you, leaves you reeling, heart pounding wildly, unable to grasp how you suddenly find yourself alone on the road you were walking together just yesterday. One thing is certain: no matter how deeply two people have loved, sometimes love isn't enough. It may sound harsh, but life shows us that beyond love, a relationship needs trust, respect, communication, and shared goals. Two hearts can beat for one another, but if they're looking toward different horizons, their paths may split sooner or later. You can love someone immensely and still be unable to build a future together. Why? Because you may want different things from life. One dreams of children and a big family, the other doesn't feel ready, or one longs for stability in one place, while the other wants to roam freely around the world. Sometimes differences in values emerge, or simply, over time, people change, and change doesn't always leave the two still compatible, no matter how hard they try. Breakups can be amicable or conflictual, each with its own distinct kind of pain. In amicable separations, two people who shared both good times and bad reach, by mutual agreement, the conclusion that it's better to take separate paths. Maybe they spent nights talking, cried together, examined every last detail, and in the end parted with sadness and respect, saying, "I wish you all the best, but my path continues without you." This kind of quiet, melancholy breakup leaves behind silent tears, but also a trace of gratitude for all that was beautiful. It's as if two souls say goodbye in a final embrace, aware that they learn from each other, and that the breakup is, in fact, the last act of love they can offer, setting each other free. At the other extreme are high-conflict breakups, the kind where pain erupts as anger, harsh words, and slamming doors. When one leaves and the other is left behind feeling betrayed, it's like an open wound that burns. Shouts, accusations such as "you were never there for me," or "how could you do this to me," fill the air. In those moments, suffering takes the shape of blind rage and can leave deep scars. A conflictual breakup can turn two people who once loved each other madly into strangers who no longer speak, who can't even look each other in the eye. It's like a devastating storm that sweeps away everything in its path: beautiful memories, respect, perhaps even self-respect. Of course, many breakups fall somewhere between these extremes. They may begin as a heated argument and end in tears and apologies, or the reverse, they start calm and civil. But in the end, accusations and long unsaid words spill out and sting. Ultimately, every breakup has its own story, just as every love is unique. What happens inside the hearts of two partners when they part ways? Beyond the circumstances, a breakup sets off an emotional process akin to the grieving process. You lose someone not to death, but to their exit from your life, and the pain is real and profound. At first, there's often shock and denial. No, this can't be happening to us. We can't break up. We'll get through this. It's just a bad dream. The mind refuses to accept reality, and the heart clings to any thread of hope that everything will be okay. You may still text each other out of habit, or one of you hesitates to pack up their things from the other's place, as if the breakup were only temporary. Then, when reality slips in without mercy, the raw pain arrives. That vast emptiness in your stomach in the morning, when you wake up and remember it's real, that the person you love is no longer beside you. Sleepless nights, a pillow soaked with tears, days when every corner of the city reminds you of them. It's as if you're carrying an invisible wound that hurts with every step. Some people describe a broken heart as a claw in the chest, and it's not just poetic flourish. The body truly responds to suffering. Your heart races or seems to stop, your appetite disappears, or on the contrary, you seek refuge in ice cream or chocolate, and sleep becomes a chaos of sad dreams. It's normal, it's how the body and soul process loss. At this point, the questions, turmoil, and even guilt creep in. Where did I go wrong? How could I have saved the relationship? Why wasn't I good enough? Questions that hurt and loop obsessively in your mind. Every beautiful memory now becomes a reason to ask, why isn't it like that anymore? What happened to us? And answers don't come easily, or at all. Instead, anger may surface. At your ex, how could they do this to me? At yourself, how did I not see the signs? At fate or anyone else? Anger is, in fact, another face of pain. Sometimes it's easier to be angry than sad, because anger gives you the illusion of energy and control, where sadness leaves you depleted. Gradually, after the initial storm, comes a period of inner bargaining and hopes mingled with desperation. Many of us have been there, that moment when you tell yourself, maybe if I give it time, maybe if I change, maybe we still have a chance. The temptation to try to reconcile appears. A late-night text, I miss you, a phone call after a bit of liquid courage, or even showing up at their door in tears, pleading, let's try one more time, I promise it'll be different. It's human to want to piece a warm, broken heart back together while the fragments are still warm. Some couples do manage to reconcile and spend a while longer together, but if the deeper problems that led to the breakup remain unresolved, reconciliation is most often temporary. Like a sad waltz, one step forward, two steps back, you can end up right back at the point of parting, repeating the cycle of pain. In the end, after many emotional ups and downs, acceptance begins to appear little by little. It isn't a clean victory. It's not as if you wake up one day suddenly happy and at peace. Acceptance arrives quietly, in small moments. One morning you realize your first thought isn't your ex but yourself, what you'll do today, what plans you have. You can listen to your song without collapsing into tears, maybe even with a nostalgic smile. Instead of obsessively asking why did it end, you begin to think, what can I learn from what happened, and how can I move forward? Acceptance means recognizing that that story, as beautiful as it was, had its part in your life, and now a new chapter has begun. It doesn't mean you forget or minimize the love you shared. It means you allow yourself to heal and look toward the future without that constant ache pressing on your soul. It's important to say that both partners usually suffer in a breakup, though in different ways. The one who decides to leave isn't spared pain. They may feel immense guilt for hurting the other and wonder if they did the right thing. Even if they seem determined and cold on the outside, there's a war inside their heart. They remember the beautiful moments and question whether they're giving up too easily. They're haunted by the thought of losing someone valuable or ending up alone. And the one who is left, of course, goes through the shock of rejection and may feel powerless. They feel left behind, and their self-confidence may be shaken. I wasn't enough, they didn't love me enough, why didn't they fight for me? Both roles are hard, and no one walks away untouched from such an emotional storm. All these experiences, shock, denial, anger, sadness, hope, acceptance, are part of the healing process after a breakup. They don't arrive in a clear order, and they don't vanish overnight. It's a winding road with better days and worse ones. What matters is that no matter how dark the tunnel seems, there's a glimmer of hope at the end of it. A wounded heart can heal with time, patience, and support from friends, family, or even professional help if needed. Every breakup teaches us something about ourselves, what we truly want from a relationship, what we can't accept, and how vital honest communication is. And yes, it also teaches us how resilient we are. Because even when we feel we'll never get back up, most of the time we manage to gather the pieces of our heart and move forward, perhaps a little wiser, perhaps a little more cautious, but certainly stronger. So, a breakup is a painful chapter of love, yet sometimes a necessary one. We all hope for happily ever after, but real life is more complicated. Sometimes loving also means knowing when to stop, having the courage to end a relationship that makes you both unhappy, instead of clinging blindly out of fear of being alone. Sometimes true love means wishing the other person well, even if that good no longer includes you. It's a hard lesson, perhaps the hardest of all love's lessons. A late autumn evening. The park, almost empty, is gently lit by a few street lamps, the same warm glow under which, years ago, Jennifer and Michael sat on a bench, wrapped in each other's arms and full of hope. Now, on that very bench, the two sit side by side in silence, lost in their thoughts. Rust-colored leaves rustle under their shoes, and the cold autumn wind tosses their hair, but neither seems to notice the chill. The simmering tension between them is stronger than any gust the wind can bring. Jennifer rubs her hands together, not so much from the cold as from the unease. Her heart beats fast. She can feel her emotions urging her to burst out, but she tries to hold them back. Michael, beside her, stares at the ground with furrowed brows, as if he's searching for words among the pebbles on the path. It's been a long time since they sat together in such silence. But words are hard to find when you know that, once spoken, they might hurt. At last, Michael breaks the silence, his voice low. I know why we're here. We need to talk, don't we? Jennifer nods slowly, without looking at him directly. She gathers herself and speaks almost in a whisper. Yes, we do. Another awkward pause follows. They both know the subject hanging heavily between them, but it's so hard to approach it head-on. Michael lets out a deep sigh and goes on. Look, I'll say it, Jennifer. I know that in the last few months, something has changed between us. You're more and more sad, quieter. Every morning at breakfast I watch you stir your coffee listlessly, and I see that your smile no longer reaches your eyes. Not like before, and I realize that I'm the reason, aren't I? His voice cracks a little on the last words. Jennifer feels a lump in her throat. She lifts her gaze to him. Michael's warm brown eyes are now glazed with unshed tears. She has rarely seen him this vulnerable. Michael, she begins, hesitant. This isn't about blame. There isn't a single reason, and it's not just your fault or mine. She draws a deep breath, trying to order her thoughts. How could she compress into a clear explanation all the emotional chaos inside her? I've been trying to understand what I feel, Jennifer continues. You know I love you. At these words, Michael flinches slightly, as if receiving a confirmation he had been dreading. I love you so much, Michael, and that's exactly why what I'm about to say hurts so much. Michael shifts his body so he can look at her directly, as if bracing for a blow. Jennifer feels her heart rise into her throat. I'm not happy anymore, she whispers at last, her voice trembling. Tears begin to well at the corners of her eyes, but she holds them back, blinking rapidly. And I know you're not truly happy either. Jen, Michael blurts out, using the pet name he has for her. I am happy with you. I mean, I love you. You're my whole world. How can you say that? Fear and denial mingle in his voice. For a moment, he almost forgets his restraint and lays his hand over hers, squeezing it desperately. Jennifer feels the warmth of his palm and sees the panic in his eyes. She wants to give in, to say, fine, forget everything I said, let's go home. But she knows it would be only a postponement, a sweet lie that would prolong their agony. Michael, she says slowly, deliberately, letting a few tears fall. You know we both feel this. We've been lying to ourselves these past months, sweeping our problems under the rug, but we can't go on like this. He slowly pulls his hand back, realizing his fingers are trembling. He bites his lip and looks up at the bare branches overhead, as if searching there for answers or at least a bit of courage. Talk to me, please. Tell me what you feel, what you want. Michael whispers, this time in a voice that betrays resignation. Jennifer wipes her cheeks with the back of her hand. She decides it's time to put into words everything she's been holding in. I want something else, Michael. I want simplicity. For you to truly be with me, not just physically beside me. To feel you present, attentive. I can't live on gifts and expensive dinners and last-minute plans you make to make up for not being there. The words come out harsher than she intended, but they're honest. I've always loved you for your ambition, for your work, but your work has become your life. And I've been left out. Michael nods slowly, taking in each word like a verdict. He knows there's a hard kernel of truth. In the past months, the past years, he has poured all his energy into the company, into securing for them a future free of material worries. He firmly believed that this is what matters, that love is shown by giving her everything. But, without meaning to, he neglected his presence, the soul of their relationship. You're right, he says quietly, a bitter taste in his mouth. You're absolutely right. I thought that if I gave you a comfortable life, if you lacked nothing, you'd be happy. But I was blind. I didn't see that what you really needed was me, not things. His regret-filled words make Jennifer shake her head, and she hastens to add, I don't blame you, and I was wrong for not telling you sooner how lonely I felt. I kept hoping you'd figure it out on your own, that things would change by themselves. She sighs, then continues her confession, touching on something that has weighed on her heart for a long time. Michael, I want a family. You've known that about me since we moved in together. Not necessarily now, I'm not saying it has to be tomorrow, but I want to know that one day we'll start a family, that maybe we'll have a child of our own. Michael closes his eyes for a second and sighs, as if he'd been expecting this topic, yet it still hits him in the gut. I know, he says in a low voice. I know you want that. And I've kept putting off the conversation, avoiding the subject. I kept telling you later, not now. The truth is. He pauses, mustering the courage to be honest. The truth is, I don't know if I ever want kids, Jen. Maybe it sounds awful, but I feel like I'm not cut out for that. At least not now. And I don't know if a year or two from now it'll be any different. Maybe it never will. Jennifer expected this answer. She knew it deep down, but she still feels her heart clench hearing it spoken aloud. How many nights has she cried, wondering why the man she loves doesn't want the same things from life that she does? Thank you for telling me the truth, she whispers. At least now it's all clear. Michael stands up abruptly, overwhelmed by emotion. He starts pacing nervously in front of the bench, running his hands through his hair. God, so this is what it's about. He breathes in a desperate whisper, as if to himself, All the little fights, all the coldness between us, that's what it was. The fact that I can't give you the life you want. He turns to Jennifer, his face lit by the pale lamplight. Unshed tears and an immense sense of guilt glisten in his eyes. Jennifer, I'd do anything to see you happy, you know that. I'd take you around the world, lay the world at your feet. But the one thing you truly want, I can't give you. How am I supposed to live with that? She rises slowly from the bench and takes a step toward him. She lays a gentle hand on his arm, a consoling gesture. I don't want you to carry any burden, and I don't want to live with resentment either, Michael. The truth is we want different things. As much as we love each other, I feel that if we stay together like this, in this situation, over time I'll end up blaming you. For having sacrificed my dream of becoming a mother, maybe, and you in turn will end up blaming me for pressuring you to be someone you're not. Michael listens and nods slowly. Each of her words is like a knife, but one that cuts through the fog of confusion and brings clarity. He knows she's right. If they carried on, this is likely what awaited them. Her, increasingly unhappy and frustrated, him, increasingly guilty and suffocated. Their love would become a constant struggle, turn into something toxic, even though neither of them wants that. He brings his hands to his face, covering his eyes for a moment. He wishes it were all just a bad dream. When did their life become so complicated? When did they go from embracing under the stars to this cold conversation about breaking up? Jennifer looks at him with a broken heart. She sees him wrestling with himself, the same Michael who stood by her through so many hard moments, who, in his own way, has loved her more than anyone else. She realizes it's excruciating for him too. Michael lowers his hands and looks straight at her, with disarming honesty. Then, what do we do? He asks softly. That question hangs in the air for a few moments. They both know the answer, but neither seems to dare say it in so many words. Jennifer feels her knees go weak. She sits back down on the bench, because the final news, even though she knew it, still knocks the wind out of her. I think, she begins with effort, feeling her voice break. I think we should break up. The words hang heavy, final. In that same instant, a tear slides down her cheek. Michael sits back down beside her, as if on autopilot, his gaze lost. It takes them a few moments to process together what they've just decided. I can't imagine my life without you, Michael says, almost in a whisper, staring straight ahead into space. But I also can't keep you beside me and break your heart day after day by denying you the things that matter to you. He turns to her and, with a timid gesture, wipes the tear from her cheek. That tender touch undoes them both. Jennifer bursts into uncontrollable sobs, and Michael pulls her to his chest, holding her tight. They sit like that for minutes on end, crying together on their park bench. For now words aren't needed. The tears say everything there is to say. They mourn their love. They mourn the future they had dreamed of, which now unravels like a beautiful dream you wake from far too soon. I don't know what the days will be like without you, Jennifer whispers between sobs, her face buried in his jacket. I'm scared, Michael. He slowly strokes her hair, his own tears running down his cheeks. His voice trembles as he answers. Shh. I'm scared too, me too. I barely remember what my life was like before you. But... He gently draws her back just enough to see her face. I don't want to lie to you, my love. You need something I can't give you right now, and if staying with me makes you unhappy, then I have to let you go. Jennifer rests her forehead against his, eyes closed, and breathes in his familiar scent once more. I love you, Michael. I love you so much, she says slowly, like a declaration she wants to make sure he'll always remember. Michael feels his soul breaking into pieces. He wants to shout that they're making a mistake, that maybe they should still try to go to couples therapy, to do anything not to lose what they have. But deep down he knows Jennifer is right. They've reached a crossroads where even love can no longer resolve the conflict between their desires. So he swallows the painful lump in his throat and answers her with the same love. I love you too, Jennifer. I'll always love you in one way or another. They embrace again, calmer now, like two people who have said a proper goodbye. Their tears have ebbed, leaving their eyes red and sad. For a few moments, an otherworldly hush settles over the cold night. Only the wind rustles through the branches, and in the distance the street lamp's light flickers softly. Jennifer and Michael remain side by side, holding hands, aware that this is the last moment of intimacy they will share as lovers. Eventually, Michael offers to walk Jennifer home. They both rise and amble along the park path. At one point, they reach a fork. To the left lies the way to the apartment they used to share. To the right, the path leaves the park for the boulevard. They stop instinctively. They look at each other, both recognizing the irony of fate. They have, quite literally, arrived at a crossroads. I could come, Michael begins, hesitating. I mean, maybe you'd like me to stay with you tonight, so you won't be alone. Jennifer bites her lip, tempted by the thought, but she slowly shakes her head. Better not, she says softly. It'll hurt even more tomorrow morning if we pretend tonight that everything is still the way it was. Michael knows she's right. He's always loved the way she sees things clearly, even when he's overwhelmed by emotion. Okay, he concedes with a sigh. Then I guess this is where we part ways. The word part tears at their hearts all over again. They stand face to face under the warm yellow glow of the street lamp, not knowing how to say goodbye. Michael reaches out and once more wipes a trace of a tear from her cheek. Then, without thinking, he pulls her into a tight embrace, lifting her slightly onto her toes. Jennifer wraps her arms around his waist as well, burying her face in his chest, listening to his heart pound. They wish this moment would never end, but they both know they have to let go. They break the embrace reluctantly. Michael kisses her forehead for a long moment, like a silent blessing. Please take care of yourself, he says quietly. You're a wonderful person, Jennifer. Don't forget that. Jennifer feels the tears threatening to rise again. She touches his cheek lightly with her fingers, committing his familiar features to memory one last time. You too take care of yourself, Michael. Thank you for everything you've given me for all these years. He nods with a small, sad smile. He wants to tell her so much, thank you for loving me, for making me a better man, for the unforgettable memories, but the words catch in his throat. He hopes she knows it anyway, that she's long since rid it in his heart. At last, Jennifer turns slowly and starts down the path to the right. Michael stays where he is, watching her slender figure grow distant. Jennifer, he calls suddenly, with a final impulse. She stops and turns, waiting. Michael gives her a look heavy with emotion and says, his voice trembling but resolute. Be happy. Please, be happy, no matter where the road takes you. Another tear slides down his cheek as he says it. Jennifer brings a hand to her mouth, stifling a sob. She nods and answers. And you deserve to be happy, Michael. I wish you all the best in the world. They share one last lingering look, laden with all the love and sorrow they feel. Then Jennifer starts walking again, quickening her pace before she loses the courage to go. Michael stands motionless, watching her grow farther and farther away. Dry leaves rustle under her steps, and the lampposts guide her toward the park's exit. In the cold night air, Jennifer's sweet scent seems to linger for a moment after she disappears. Michael breathes in deeply, as if wanting to keep a piece of her with him. Then, slowly, he turns and takes the other path, heading toward the road that leads in the opposite direction. The bench where they once sat wrapped in each other's arms now stands empty behind them. Two separate paths, lit by different lampposts, carrying Jennifer and Michael toward different destinies. That night, their paths diverged. Their breakup was amicable, grounded in honest communication and mutual respect, even though it was extremely painful. We didn't see any shouting or ugly accusations between them. Instead, we saw two people who still care for each other, trying to be honest with themselves and with one another. Their love still endures, which is precisely why the moment is so heartbreaking, because the problem isn't a lack of love, but the incompatibility between their deepest wants and needs. Let's briefly examine the causes of their breakup. Jennifer and Michael were looking toward different horizons, exactly as we discussed in theory. She wanted to start a family, a more settled life where emotional connection and time together came first. He, on the other hand, didn't feel ready, perhaps never willing for children, and was heavily invested in his career, expressing his love through material stability and gifts. Neither of them was fundamentally wrong. Jennifer's desires are natural, and so are Michael's hesitations. The problem is that these desires don't align. Love wasn't enough to change their values or life plans. And they realized, as their dialogue makes clear, that if they kept going and tried to force each other, they would end up hurting one another. We can see in their behavior the very emotional steps mentioned earlier. At first, there were denial and hope. They postponed the hard conversations, months, perhaps years on end. They avoided the topics that hurt, such as the one about children, vaguely hoping that maybe it will resolve itself. For a while, Jennifer kept quiet about her loneliness and sadness, trying to convince herself that everything was fine. Michael, for his part, kept hoping she would be happy with the comfortable life he provided, and that, in time, perhaps her desire for children would wait. This phase of denial shows up in the story through their efforts to keep up appearances, quiet dinners, living together as if nothing were deeply wrong, even though each heart knew the truth. Then came the moment of confrontation, when the two chose to lay their cards on the table. Here we see the courage of vulnerability. Jennifer candidly admitted her unhappiness and unmet needs, and Michael had the strength to acknowledge honestly that he cannot be the man to meet those needs. It was, without a doubt, the hardest moment, the one where you say out loud what you're afraid to admit even to yourself. They moved through deep sadness, the tears, the crying in each other's arms, and a flicker of helpless anger, Michael pacing, berating himself for having been blind to her needs, Jennifer voicing her frustration that he wasn't emotionally present. And yet, remarkably, they didn't turn their anger against each other in the form of attacks. We didn't hear Michael accuse Jennifer of asking too much, nor Jennifer tell him he wasted her years. This shows how profound the respect between them was, even in moments of rupture. She realized that waiting another year or two would only prolong the agony, because the underlying issues, the desire for children and Michael's lack of emotional engagement, had no guarantee of resolving themselves. In theory, I often say that couples take one last dance of hope before the final separation. Here that dance was very brief, cut short by their clarity. Both realized through tears that the breakup was inevitable and in fact the least damaging option in the long term. The breakup itself, as it unfolded, was a classic example of a mature, empathetic separation. They listened to each other, acknowledged their mistakes. Michael admitted he had neglected her, Jennifer, that she had stayed silent too long, and expressed their feelings without holding back. And crucially, they offered each other release and a blessing for the future. Those last words, "Be happy, I wish you all the best," show that, beyond the immense pain, there is a sincere desire for the other to find happiness on the road ahead. It's the clearest sign of an amicable separation, when, even with a shattered heart, you don't wish your ex harm, you don't try to make them suffer out of revenge, but instead wish them healing and fulfillment, even if that happens in another story, perhaps alongside someone else. In their story, we can see both partners' pain. Jennifer, Though she was the one to voice the final decision, suffers immensely. She fears loneliness, cries, and struggles to say goodbye to the man she loves. Michael, though at first he wanted to deny the problems, also ends up in tears and vulnerably shares his fears. "I can't imagine life without you." They both said goodbye in tears. Both were left with an emptiness inside. No one wins in a breakup like this because it wasn't a battle. It was simply a sorrowful choice between two loves, love for the other and love for the life one dreams of. If we consider other scenarios, Jennifer and Michael's breakup could have looked very different without this maturity. They could have had ugly fights, hurling blame at each other. "It's your fault for wanting to leave," versus "No, it's you for not wanting a family." Turning pain into mutual anger, that likely would have turned them from lovers into enemies. Instead, they chose the hard road, beautiful in its own way, to part with care and gratitude. They remembered that they had loved each other sincerely and honored that love to the very last second. They showed that a breakup, however difficult, can also be an act of deep respect. Respect for yourself, not staying in a situation that makes you unhappy just for the sake of being in a relationship, and respect for the other, not forcing them to be someone they're not, or to sacrifice what matters to them. With great difficulty, they chose not to tie each other down in a relationship that would have made them unhappy over time, no matter how much they tried to convince themselves otherwise. They understood that, in the long run, it would be more painful to stay together under conditions of major compromise than to part now, while they could still say a graceful goodbye. Breakups are part of life, and, painful as they are, they teach us important lessons about ourselves and what it truly means to love. Jennifer and Michael's story showed us a less romantic, yet equally real, face of love. Sometimes love also means letting go. Letting go of the person you love for their sake or yours. Letting go of the relationship so you don't destroy each other over the long term. It is perhaps one of the hardest forms of love because it asks you to break your own heart and endure loneliness for the sake of the other's happiness or your own inner integrity. At the end of this chapter, I want to emphasize a reassuring message. You are not alone if you're going through a breakup. Many of us have been there and many will go through it again. It doesn't mean you failed or that you don't deserve to be loved. It simply means that story has finished its role in your life. And I know when you're in the thick of the pain, these words can sound like empty clichés, but time really does heal all wounds, as the old saying goes. Allow yourself to suffer, allow yourself to cry and feel everything you need to feel. Every tear shed now washes away a little of the pain and brings you closer to the day when things will be better. Remember that love doesn't disappear from the world with a breakup. Even if you feel right now that you'll never love again, or that no one could ever take the place of the person you've just lost, life has a way of surprising us. A wounded heart, once it heals, often becomes even more capable of loving deeply because it has known both the joy and the pain of love. Each past relationship, in fact, prepares us for the next. It teaches us what we truly want, what we're willing to offer and what we're not, and where we need to be more mindful next time. Sometimes, even if we don't get a happy ending in love, we can find another kind of happy ending. The one in which two people choose to respect and value each other enough not to turn their love into a cage of suffering. True love also means honesty. It means recognizing when a chapter has come to a close. It means being able to say to the person you love, "We shared something wonderful, I will always cherish you for that, but now it's time for us to say goodbye," and to sincerely wish them well as they go on. In closing, if you're reading these lines with a heart heavy from a recent breakup, please receive my words like a warm embrace. It will be okay. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will be. The love you gave was not in vain. You have grown, you have learned, and you will love again when you're ready. And if the breakup you're going through was amicable, try to keep gratitude in your heart for the beautiful moments and the lessons learned, rather than bitterness that it's over. And if it was painful and conflictual, take the time to heal and don't let this experience shut you down for good. Not everyone will hurt you, not all relationships will end the same way. Ultimately, every ending is a new beginning in disguise. When a shared path comes to an end, other paths, new and unforeseen, appear before us. Life goes on with its unexpected surprises, and who knows what, or who awaits you around the corner. What matters is to keep moving forward with an open heart, even if it's hurting right now. Because yes, sometimes love doesn't mean staying together at any cost. Sometimes true love means finding the strength to say goodbye when you know it will ultimately heal two hearts. And that goodbye is not the end of love itself. It's proof that love takes different forms. Today it grieves, but tomorrow it will smile again in another form, in another story. So when paths diverge, remember that your heart will find its way again. Be gentle with yourself and trust. The sun will rise again in your life, and love in one form or another will find its way back in, healed and wiser than before. In the end, that may be the greatest hope with which we close this chapter. That any breakup, no matter how painful, prepares us for an even more authentic love when its time comes.